We are live. So this is the 13th official podcast. Global truth they won't touch. I need to pull up my word here. Tonight we're going where the mainstream won't. 5 nations, 5 stories, and one undeniable pattern. Truth is being buried, distorted, or ignored because it doesn't serve the narrative. From Washington to Kyiv, from Tel Aviv to Mogadishu, and all the way to Canberra. Governments are making decisions that reshape lives, borders, and futures. But you wouldn't know it if you reeled on legacy media, because these stories don't fit the script. That's what I do. I do the stuff that nobody wants to. I get demonetized for the greater good. I hope everybody is having a fabulous night. I'm going to try to get through this with the least butchering of words possible. So in America, we're watching diplomacy turn into a popularity contest. Loyalty to political figures is replacing competence, and our global credibility is on the line. In Somalia, Ethiopia is carving up the land that isn't theirs, while Al-Shabaab regains ground. It's a border war wrapped in silence. In Israel, grieving families are begging, please forgive me, are begging for their children back. You know, the hostages. But their own government won't listen. The war strategy is splitting the nation. In Australia, silence. Hold on, let me back up there. I'm not saying that the people protesting for the release of their loved ones is splitting the nation. Israel is, it's solid, okay? So don't get me wrong there whenever I said that. What I meant by that was there's 2 sides to it. There's the one side that's like, well, I want my child released. It doesn't matter about the other ones, just mine, which is selfishness, right? And then there's the second side, which is we want all the hostages released, which probably is not going to happen either. And then there's the third side that's like, this has gone on for way too long. Hamas has already threatened and has done it. They will unalive them if they are found. So it's a lose-lose battle. That's what I meant. So I had to clarify that. So forgive me on that one. In Australia, science is being censored. US funding comes with ideological strings attached, and researchers are being forced to choose between truth and compliance. That word, compliance. And in Ukraine, hospitals are bombed, aid workers hunted, and children unalived, while the world scrolls past in silence. These aren't isolated events. They're symptoms of a deeper sickness. the erosion of truth. This is truth. The rise of propaganda and the cost of silence. So tonight, we expose it, we name it, and we challenge it with facts, conviction, and the clarity this moment demands. This is Real World. Truth matters. And this is the truth they don't want you to see. So, number one on the list here is America's diplomatic shakeup, loyalty over competence. What's really happening? Nick Adams, a conservative commentator with no diplomatic experience, was nominated as U.S. ambassador to Malaysia. Adams is known for viral social media posts praising Trump, attacking woke culture, and prompting pro-Israel views. So far, I see nothing wrong with this man. Malaysian officials have expressed concerns over his appointment, calling him divisive and unqualified. 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 What am I even saying? Well, obviously he's qualified. He wouldn't have been given the job. Just because you don't agree with how he sees things doesn't mean that he isn't qualified for the job. Sorry. Come again. Why it's suppressed. Mainstream. This is the shocker too, right? Because it's like the left wing media or whatever. Because I'm trying to play right down the middle right now. Like that's what I'm doing. I'll call out both sides. I don't care. So here's the thing. Why isn't left wing media covering something like this? Why is it not a headline? I don't know. But it's a headline here. Mainstream outlets barely covered the nomination, and those that did framed it as a cultural war win. The deeper issue, America's shift from career diplomats to ideological influencers, is ignored. Why does it matter? Malaysia is a strategic partner in Southeast Asia, bordering the South China Sea and key shipping lanes. Alienating Muslim majority allies could push them closer to the China or Russia. This sets a precedent. Loyalty to politics figures may now outweigh expertise in foreign policy. So while Adams reflects patriotic values, the bigger concern is competence versus charisma. America's global credibility is at stake when diplomacy becomes a particular contest. I don't see that it's a contest. I personally don't see that it's a contest. Now, if they would have been like, hey, you're going to be Malaysia's representative, I'd be like, no. I can't even get my camera to work half the time properly. I have a lot of knowledge, but I can't get my camera to work half the time. I'm just not cut up for it. Sorry. Anyway, humble myself, meaning like I would never get the job anyway, is what I'm getting at. So Number 2 is Somalia's Red Sea crisis, Ethiopia's expansion, and El Shabaab's return. What's really happening? Ethiopia signed a secretive deal with Somaliland, a breakaway region of Somalia, to build a naval base and gain Red Sea access. You know what Somalia is famous for? Do you really know what Somalia is famous for? They're pirates. Mighty. They have them. They do. Somalia has pirates. Lots of them. It's like a way of life for them. Somalia's government condemned the deal, calling it a violation of sovereignty. Ethiopia has allegedly deployed troops into Jubaland and other. Don't worry, it's red underlined in my word, so I hope I pronounced it right because it's not even sure. Other contested regions. Meanwhile, Al Shabaab has exploited the chaos to retake territory in southern Somalia. Shocker. Why is it suppressed? Western media avoids concerning African border disputes unless they involve Western troops or oil. It's a fact. Check it yourself if you don't believe me. That's why I'm covering it. The resurgence of Al Shabaab undermines the success narrative of U.S. counterterrorism efforts. That's the truth. And trust me, I voted for Donald Trump. I'm glad he's our president. But not everybody under him is Donald J. Trump. Let's also put that in context. Is everybody doing their jobs exactly perfectly every 100% of the time, like Pam Bondi and stuff? No. People make mistakes, like me, like you. Everybody makes mistakes. It's just how bad is the mistake? Why does it matter? The Red Sea is one of the world's busiest trade routes. Any instability threatens global shipping. Yeah. Remember what happened whenever, who was it? Who was it? That we sent a bunch of aircraft carriers and a whole naval fleet and stuff over there. And they were going to try to jam it and they were taking over ships and stuff. It'll come to me, don't worry. Ethiopia's expansion could trigger a regional war involving Eritrea, Djibouti, and Turkey. And Turkey is a NATO ally. So Somalia's collapse risks creating another failed state haven for jihadist groups because everybody loves them. Through the lens, this is what happens when borders are ignored and federalism fails. Somalia's sovereignty is being carved up by neighbors and terrorists alike. I need a drink because I'm not a robot. Better late than never, I guess. The laugh. Better late than never. 3. This is a good one. Israel's internal crisis, hostage families versus Netanyahu's war strategy. Now, I agree with some of this and I disagree with some of this. What's really happening? As of August 2025, over 120 Israeli hostages remain in Gaza. Okay. Last figure I had was 20 were alive. So there's 100 unalived hostages. Are they properly buried? Are they, were they taken care of at all before they? No, probably not. They're sick. Remains in Gaza. Many held since October 7th attacks. Families of these hostages have launched nationwide protests, understandably, demanding a ceasefire now and a deal to bring their loved ones home. Do you know what here's the deal. The only way you're bringing your loved ones home is by killing, demonetized, unaliving every Hamas member and anybody that is willing to pick up a gun and keep those hostages. Period. That's how you bring the hostages home. And you can check me on this. I brought it up on an earlier video. There is, in fact, a militia. In the terms of America, it would be a militia that is in Gaza fighting on the Israeli side, basically. They are unaliving Hamas members. Good job. The Israeli government. Oh, wait, did I do that? Line. Okay, yep. The Israeli government, led by Prime Minister Netanyahu, has refused to negotiate, insisting on a total victory strategy that prioritizes military operations over hostage recovery. I agree with that. Because the only bargaining chips that Hamas has are the hostages. They know that. We know that. I hope you know that. This is the only bargaining chip they got. They give up all the hostages, and guess what? They're done for. Why can't Hamas just lay down their arms, say we're not going to be a militant group? Here's your hostages that are alive. Here are the unalived ones, and stop it. We're going to get to a really hot topic with Ukraine, which is the last one. But currently we're on number 3, so we'll stay here. I think I want to skip ahead a little bit. Really get people fired up. Leaked reports suggest that the IDF commanders privately oppose this approach, fearing it endangers hostages and prolongs the war. I don't believe necessarily that's true, but you got to check out Chuck Holton, the Hot Zone with Chuck Holton. Tell him I sent you. Tell him Ace sent you. Seriously. And by the way, the name of his book is The Death of Civilization. Great book. Why is it suppressed? Mainstream outlets frame the protests as emotional outbursts. Their loved ones are held in captivity, have been since October 7th. Ignoring the strategic and moral implications. Coverage focuses on battlefield updates, not the human cost of political stubbornness. I don't believe it's political stubbornness. So the narratives of unity behind Israel's war effort is crumbling. I disagree with that also. But media avoids showing internal dissent. Well, the people that I've seen that are in Israel, everything is fine and peachy in Israel. other than these certain groups. And then also the very Orthodox Jews that there's 34,000 roughly of them. I probably got that number wrong, but it's roughly 34,000 Hasidic Jews that absolutely refuse to pick up a rifle and defend their country. Come on. The law that they made that protected them so they didn't have to join the military, because every Israeli is required to join the military. I hope you know that. If you didn't, now you know. And you get a pass if you are a Hasidic Jew, right? So you got to fit the guideline. But they absolutely refuse. And when that law was made, pardoning them from joining the military, there were only like 300 or 400 Hasidic Jews. Now we're talking 34,000 of them. It's a couple platoons. Come on. This is the crisis of leadership when a government prioritizes optics over lives and silences grieving families. It's time to ask, who is being served, citizens or power? Glad we got past that one. 4. Australia's research collapse. U.S. strings and academic censorship. What's really going on? U.S. funding cuts to NOAA, NOAA, and USAID also deals with Israel and Gaza. Have disrupted Australia's climate modeling and Pacific development programs. This is how you know it's nonsense already. They're talking about climate modeling. Yeah. Tornado, just keep walking down the runway, tornado. You know. American donors are now attaching ideological conditions to grants, requiring alignment with DEI. DEI. We're talking about it again. I'm banned. You're demonetized. You're talking about it. Gender identity politics and inclusive language standards. Australia researchers report being censored or defunded for refusing to adopt U.S. political frameworks. I'm guessing that this was prior to Trump. I didn't actually look at the date on that one. Why is it suppressed? Why am I covering it and not, Fox? The media frames it as global cooperation, ignoring the cohesive nature of funding strings. Academic censorship. What is that word? Censorship. You're banned. Is hiding behind bureaucratic yeah. What am I doing? Can't speak tonight. Bureaucratic language like compliance and alignment. And why does it matter? Australia's ability to forecast bushfires, cyclones, and droughts is compromised. Pacific Island nations are losing support for infrastructure and disaster relief. Sovereignty in silence is being replaced by ideological conformity. What's really going on? This is ideological colonialization. Australia's independence is being eroded not by tanks, but by terms and conditions. And our fifth story. I'm just so excited to get to my devotional today. I hope that you will stick around if you're watching this live right now, or if probably not, but watching this at a later date. I hope you watch to the end and get the devotional. Number 5 is Ukraine's civilian crisis. Hospitals bombed, aid workers targeted. What's really going on? In July 2025, Russia bombed the, I'm going to butcher it, it's coming, Okamedia Children's Hospital in Kyiv, one of the largest pediatric facilities in Europe, Eastern Europe. So it's one of the largest in Eastern Europe alone. That's interesting. Over 219 civilians were killed that month, including aid workers and medical staff. Russia has intensified attacks on energy grids, water systems, and humanitarian convoys. Putin is a murderer. He is an unaliver. He likes taking people up to the 13th floor and seeing if they can fly. Demonetized. Okay? I don't care. It's the truth. That's who he is. There's no negotiating with him. He's a dictator. Half of his soldiers proudly wear swastikas and stuff, yet say Ukraine is it's backwards. Everything Russia says. I wish people would wake up. I know so much about this, and I'm gonna do a whole video just on Ukraine. And I'm gonna hope that you sincerely take some of the things I'm saying and look up the facts. Like, Ukraine was a majority, 85% of their country were Christians pre-war. I promise. Those are facts. Russia has intensified attacks on energy grids, water systems, and humanitarian convoys. Why is it suppressed? War fatigue has set in. Media outlets are scaling back coverage to focus on domestic politics and celebrity news. Yeah, just what we need. More celebrity news. The humanitarian toll is being downplayed to avoid realigning calls for Western interventions. And why does it matter? Ukraine's infrastructure is collapsing. Children are dying in hospitals, and aid workers are being hunted. Hunted! Because the people that Russia hurts, they don't want them being healed. They want them to be unalived. That's why if you just download the app, like the Toshavar app is for Israel, if you download the app for Ukraine, you'd see it. It's on my tablet upstairs. You can't get a name right now, but I'll put it in the description below. After this video, I'll edit it so you can download it. You'll see. He has figured out when our shipments from the NATO nations and supporting countries of Ukraine are sending in the goods, and now he's sending his, MiG-31s and dropping bombs on those rail cars and convoys, however it's being transported. You can see it just past couple days. He's been doing more and more of it, right? Trying to cut it off. And I would be afraid to say that I'm wondering if he's getting some kind of inside intel that we're not being really told about. I hate to say that, but it's possible. It's a non-zero chance. How about that? So why does it matter? Ukraine's infrastructure is collapsing. Children are dying in hospitals, and aid workers are being hunted. The West's delayed response is costing lives and emboldening aggressors. Who are the aggressors? Russia. You won. You won. So, this is a moral failure. When hospitals become targets and the world shrugs, we've lost more than lives. We've lost our conscience. Because those people are, the majority of them are Christian. I'm dead serious. And we're to love everybody, even their enemy. I'm supposed to love Russia, but I can't stand Putin. I love him. I hope he comes to Christ and stops this war and everything, but he ain't going to. Okay. Yeah. There's the group that have been given over to a reprobate mind that are walking around on this planet right now, and that's what's happened. Okay. That's what's happened. Let me check this real quick. Sorry. So, truth, stewardship, and the weight of silence. We've covered 5 stories tonight, 5 nations, 5 crises, and one common thread: silence. Not the silence of peace, but the silence of omission. The kind that lets injustice fester, lets power go unchecked, and lets suffering slip past unnoticed. In America, diplomacy is being traded for loyalty. In Somalia, borders are being redrawn by force while terrorists regroup. In Israel, grieving families are begging for their children back and being ignored in a sense. In Australia, truth in science is being traded for ideological compliance, and in Ukraine, hospitals are bombed while the world scrolls past. These stories matter, not because they're dramatic, but because they're real. Because they reveal what's happening when truth is inconvenient, when leadership chooses optics over integrity, when media chooses narratives over facts. Well, right here, I speak facts. Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you all. Yes, facts. But here's the deeper truth: silence isn't just a political failure, it's a spiritual one. Scripture tells us in Proverbs 31, 8 and 9, Bible's right here, speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are destitute. Speak up and judge fairly. Defend the rights of the poor and needy. So here's my devotional tonight, and it is prayer. I need you to dig deep for this one, because I'm going to, and I'm going to try to keep myself from crying. You can ask my fiance. There are times that I pray and I absolutely break out into tears. Just a river running. Heavenly Father, Tonight, we've seen the cost of silence. We've seen leaders who choose power over people, media that chooses narratives over truth, and nations that suffer while the world looks away. But your word reminds us, woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness. Isaiah 5:20. Let us not be among them. Let us be people of clarity, of courage, and of conviction. Lord, you've called us to be watchmen. Ezekiel 33:11 or 6 says, if the watchman sees the sword coming and does not blow the trumpet, his blood I will require at the watchman's hand. Lord, let us not be silent when the sword is near. Let us reflect your justice. Micah 6:8 says, he has shown you, O man, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God. Tonight, we can ask for that posture. Lord, give us discernment in a world of distortion. Give us boldness in a culture of compromise. And give us compassion in a time of conflict. Let Rural Truth Matters not just be a channel, but a calling, a place where truth is spoken, justice is pursued, and your heart is revealed in Jesus Christ's name. Amen. This is Real World Truth Matters. And tonight, we didn't just expose the silence, we answered it. And from my family to yours, thank you for watching. And until next time, it's Ace. So stay blessed.